Hello everyone, Taylor and I are back and this is podcast number 2.
Hi guys, we're here again.
So I'd just like to say thank you to the returning listeners and welcome any new listeners who have heard about us or stumbled across Active Harborough's monthly podcast. So for those of you who don't know, Active Harborough's monthly podcast is a new approach to sharing information and insight into physical activity that we provision and physical activity that other coaches, instructors, organisations and charities provide in the Harborough community. As the months go on, we'll be able to cover more and more topics and we'll definitely cover events and activities occurring in different areas across the district.
So today we'll be covering the wonderful 2019 Active Harborough District Sports Awards. We'll have the special guest from the night here, Terri, who will be joining us to tell us about her amazing story. Following that, we'll be talking to the contracts manager at Harborough Leisure Centre to see what's going on over there. And then finally, we will be discussing the exercise on referral programme with our coordinator, Danny Hallam.
So first up, the Harborough District Sports Awards 2019. What a wicked night it was, right Taylor?
It was great.
We got all savvy, we had a professional photographer, we went live on Facebook and I made my debut in commentating, which was interesting to say the least. Listen to my own voice back, oh god, it was very cringe, but I've got to admit, I quite enjoyed it. Anyway, so the awards took place on November 13th at Leicester Grammar School. We had an amazing turnout with 200 people attending. The room was full of energy, drinks were flowing, and it was just great to get so many people together talking about sport and physical activity.
Yeah, it was great. It really showcased the talent and dedication of people involved in sport and physical activity across the district, including competitors, coaches, volunteers and local partners, just to name a few.
Yeah, there were 14 awards this year, which is brilliant, and that's more than we've ever had before. Each individual who was shortlisted got a certificate and the winners also got a lovely glass trophy and a prize donated by our sponsors. We had Leanne Plummer of Active Harborough and local legend Gaynor Nash, who made a great comedy double act as compares for the event, and they added to the atmosphere and the positive vibes around the room.
Yeah, they were great. We also had a raffle that included loads of prizes and raised a total of £200 that was split between the GEMS charity and the Lewis Foundation, who provide care and respite for people having chemotherapy.
So there's one person that stood out for me, I don't know about you Taylor, but there was a lovely lady who had a wonderful story and she had some health conditions but she didn't let that stop her, and I believe she's actually a world leading dancer and her name is Terri Picton-clark. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Terri to you all. Hi Terri, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good. So how did you find the Sports Awards?
I found them inspirational, actually. There were so many people there who I thought had done totally amazing things, especially the youngsters. They blew me away, that so much done in such a short time. I mean, I'm 68 next birthday and I've had a lot of goes and a lot of false starts to get to where I am now. So yes, I found the whole thing completely mind-blowing.
Yeah, there was lots of young athletes there.
Yes,
all their
I
talent.
thought they were incredible. Yeah.
But back to you, Terri. So I did hear your really inspiring speech about your journey on the night of the awards, and we'd like you to now share your story with the listeners to this podcast. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and the challenge you faced?
Well, I had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
I had a stroke in 2017 in September. It wasn't a big stroke, and I felt like I was going down the tunnel and the world was receding from me, and I said to my son, Robin, call an ambulance, I think I'm having a stroke.
Yeah.
And at that point, he looked at me, both sides of my mouth went. So he was on the phone, and then he asked me a question. I couldn't talk. The stroke had actually taken my voice. And I remember thinking, gosh, if I was at home now, how would I cope? How would I communicate to anyone what was happening? Because being trained as a scientist, I had this little person on my shoulder saying, oh, isn't that interesting? You're thinking that word, but that's coming out and it's rubbish.
Yeah.
So try pretending you're reading it, and it didn't work.
No.
So I was then getting in a bit of a state, and Robin saying, "Calm down, Mum, calm down," and nothing else was wrong with me, just my voice. I went into the house, I went to the loo, thinking when they get me in the ambulance, I don't want to have to use whatever. So I went to the loo, I washed my hands, I made sure I had everything I needed in my bag, and I sat there and waited for the ambulance. And I suppose the timing of mine, 6 weeks before the national finals, was a double-edged sword. I could have sat on that, I sat on the sofa in that first week thinking, what the hell just happened to me?
Yeah, what were you going to do?
What am I going to do now? And then I thought, well, I can still go dancing because, you know, none of my muscles are affected much. Right side was a bit wobbly, balance was a bit off, but nothing too much. I mean, they said they'd found a heart murmur, but I didn't really understand what that was.
Yeah.
So I decided that I would carry on, and if everything was all right, I would go to Blackpool. You see, Nikki and Glenn had been to Blackpool to the Tower Ballroom when it was held there about 5 or 6 years previously, and one of their students had a stroke at Blackpool, and it wasn't treated properly. So I was very aware that I couldn't put them in that situation again. So I said, don't worry, I will work through it. If I'm ready to go, I'll go. And once I'm there, I will do each round as it comes.
Yeah, step by step.
Step by step. If I felt wrong, I would stop. So that's what we did. And I suppose, in a way, dance stopped me from sitting and thinking I'm a victim.
Yeah.
And instead, it gave me the carrot to work towards, to say, no, I'm going to
motivation.
survive this.
Yeah.
But as I say, at the time they discovered I had a heart murmur. I didn't know what it was. And they said it was mitral valve. I didn't really know, so I usually Google it. So I looked it up, and my mitral valve doesn't close properly.
Okay.
Right.
So the left side of my heart had slightly stretched because the blood wasn't going through to the bottom of the heart. So the top had stretched to hold extra blood. And the blood going through had sort of clotted.
Right.
And that's where the clot had come from. But it wasn't until after my father died of heart valve disease that I actually got to see a consultant, because my appointment kept getting bumped.
Oh no.
But I went to my GP and said, this is what's happened, this is what I've got, please can I have a consultant
So have they
now?
deduced it was hereditary then?
Yes. Yeah. And so, it was quite it's moderate to severe mitral valve. And to this year, I've been told the atrial valve is slightly compromised as well.
Yeah.
And of course, the only way to sort it out is when it gets bad enough, they'll operate, but it'll have to be open heart surgery.
And until now, you carry on with your
carrying on.
training.
The only thing I can do for them is to keep us fit and watch my weight.
Brilliant, yeah.
Which just shows how exercise and, like you say, dancing can just help improve your life.
Absolutely.
And no matter what condition you've got, it can help.
As long as you do appropriate exercise for the appropriate duration,
right intensity,
and you've got to be your own.
Listen to your body.
You've got to be your own advocate, if you know what I mean.
Definitely.
For that. You must know your own boundaries and not use anything as an excuse. You've got to keep pushing it a little bit.
Definitely a message from the people who want to get active and have conditions. So Terri, now on to your dancing career, which is very exciting. There's so many achievements that you've gained, and I mean, where do we begin? So can you tell me a bit about your dancing career and how you and your support networks have kind of got you to attain those European world titles in ballroom and Latin?
Well, I fell into dancing as a result of trying to rebuild my life after a disastrous relationship. So I'd come out of a 12-year relationship, I was on my own, I had to rebuild my social life. So I joined a gym, and this was 2012, and somebody said, oh, did you know there's a dance class upstairs on a Saturday? What? I used to dance as a kid, but I only danced classical old-time dance, which is Velita, file waltz, and military two-step and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't ballroom dancing at all. But you learn how to stand and hold yourself, and you learn the discipline of learning. So I said, oh, I'll go along. And I went along, and I walked in, and this chap looked at me and said, you've danced before. I said, how on earth can you know that? And he said, you walk like a dancer. I thought, oh, God. So he paired me up with his nephew and said, do this dance, and I did it, and it had been sort of 30 odd years since I'd previously done it. Anyway, that was 2012. I said to them then, I haven't got a competitive bone in my body. Oh, they said, come along to a competition and watch.
You'll find it.
And that was it. I was hooked. But I didn't get anywhere until I moved up. I retired from work and moved up to Leicestershire. That was 2014. And in late November 2014, I came across Glenn's school, Got a Dance, and I went along on a Wednesday night to Meadowdale School and walked in and had a sort of turn around the floor, and the assistant teacher at the time said to Glenn, there's your best chance for a blue sash at Blackpool.
Wow.
And he never
Straight
told
from
me
the word
that.
go, you were.
But in 2015, I won the first ballroom, and I've won every ballroom entry until this year. So I've gone right through 5 years, undefeated in the ballroom.
Is that from county level, then national?
No,
European?
this is all at national level.
Wow.
But you dance in different age groups and different medal categories.
Yes.
So I've now worked through the medals at ballroom. There's nowhere for me to go.
Amazing.
Last year, or was it? Yeah, no, it was the year before. It was after the stroke. Was my first pro-am.
Wow.
In the January, and I won that. So that was the national champion. And then earlier this year, we did a world, and I came second in my category.
That's amazing.
It just shows that it's never too late.
It's never too late. I was 62 when I started dancing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, somebody else joined the school recently, and he turned around and said, oh, it's all right for all these people. They've started young. And Glenn turned around and said, excuse me, you're younger than when she started.
Yeah.
And look
So
where she
back
is
your
now.
ideas up.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, brilliant. Thanks, Terri, for joining us. It was really inspiring to talk to you, and it's an honour.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to hearing about your success in dancing and your life in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, moving on to Harborough Leisure Centre, which was recently taken over by Everyone Active. We have the contracts manager here, Matthew Hopkins, with us now. Hi, Matt.
Good morning.
So, can you tell us a little bit about Everyone Active and what their ethos is?
So we like to encourage people to do 30 minutes of activity 5 times a week, at least 2 of them in the centres, but they can be outside the centres if they want to be. And we're trying to be inclusive to everyone of all ages.
Oh, that's good. So what new activities do you have to offer at the Leisure Centre?
So for activities wise, every Monday, Wednesday, Fridays we have our over 50 sessions, which includes people in to do swimming classes. They can go for bowls, or they can go play badminton, all for £3.80. We've got the usual, the gym and the classes open to everybody with the virtual classes now, so people can come along at any time during the day. We've just started a new session called Walking Football, which is on Tuesdays, 9 till 10 in the mornings. And we've got a creche, so if anybody comes along and they want to do a class and they've got children, they can obviously put the children in the creche. So it's open to them to keep them active as well. And we've got aqua aerobics on a Wednesday. We do some kick sessions for juniors, which is a new football session on a weekend on a Saturday morning. And we also, obviously, if anybody wants to look at all the details of all of our sessions, they're on everyoneactive.com, and if you just look for Harborough Leisure Centre, you'll find us down on the drop-down menu on there.
Oh, that sounds good. So it sounds like you've got opportunities for people of all ages.
Yeah, basically we try to keep everything open to everybody, encourage activity from all age ranges. So we do some senior sessions and senior memberships for 60 plus, which are $37.85. We also do concession rates, which is for people with all abilities or need some help with it, which is £31.50. And then we try to keep everything as open as possible for everybody involved.
Well, thank you for letting us interview you today. It would be really useful for the people of Harborough here to know what their local leisure centre offers. We'll be talking about the Lutterworth Leisure Centre in the next episode.
Oh, thanks for joining us, Matt.
You're welcome.
All right.
So next up, Taylor and I are going to be talking to another key member of our sport and health team here at the council, Danny Hallam. Danny is a physical activity development officer and is also our exercise referral coordinator. So please welcome Danny.
Hello.
Hiya. So can you just describe what exercise referral is and how it works?
So Exercise Referral is a targeted scheme that we run as local authorities around the county, whereby individuals can go to their GP or health professional or doctor to get a signed prescription to undertake a subsidised physical activity programme for 12 weeks.
Okay, what kind of conditions can this be prescribed for?
So it can be things like depression, obesity and diabetes, back pain, stroke, cancer, and a whole other range of conditions. Around about 15 or 16 different conditions potentially.
Okay, that's really good. So what are the sort of problems and sort of barriers that individuals sort of initially engage in and maintaining that exercise during the programme and kind of after it's ended as well?
So firstly, these are individuals who wouldn't ordinarily kind of wish to do physical activity, or they've become demotivated in undertaking that behaviour.
That's great. So can you just give us some example of how exercise referral can help people and what kind of physical activity interventions are available to the people in Harborough?
So exercise referral is a great way of getting people back into exercise. It allows them to exercise in their own time, but also supervised by a qualified instructor for a 12-week period. We know after 12 weeks that hopefully their behaviour would have been changed somewhat, so they're kind of more inclined to undertake that activity over a longer period. They also get to do it in a social environment, whereby they can do it with people of like-minded kind of individuals who are also maybe a bit reluctant to begin with to start exercising. And then obviously in Harborough we have a range of community sessions and gym-based sessions around the district that people can access.
Cool. What kind of activity? So is it steady steps one of the things that you refer to? Is there other interventions?
So depending on the condition and the reason why that individual has been referred, we decide which is the best course of action. So steady steps is one. That would be for people at risk of falling and kind of frailty. We also have other sessions kind of around cardiac rehab, so where someone might have had a cardiac incident and then they've been referred by the hospital to undertake a 16-week programme at a gym or community-based class, and then other sessions such as obesity, diabetes, gym-based classes where they can go in to the gym and get supervised by an instructor to undertake that particular programme to suit their needs.
Oh, okay, awesome. So in terms of sort of problems and sort of barriers, I imagine some people have some kind of initial challenges with engaging and then maintaining that. Sort of how do you kind of prevent that?
So again, these are individuals who probably would be reluctant to undertake activity or exercise to start off with, but to overcome that we try and kind of offer as much support as possible, so the instructors are well qualified in building that rapport quickly, making the client or individual feel reassured that it's only natural for people to feel that kind of anxiety around getting into something new. Sometimes gyms and leisure centres can be a bit intimidating, so what we try and do is trying to get them away from the times where it's busiest, or also alternatively offer community classes to try and get away from that. And also, again, offering more choice to individuals and patients to allow them to have that flexibility. If they don't want to go to a gym, they can go to a community class instead.
How long is the programme? Is it 12 weeks?
So 12 weeks initially, but then hopefully by that 12-week period they'll look to take some kind of concessionary membership, or just carry on attending their session if it's in the community.
Okay, that's really interesting, and I think it's really important to get that word out there and people to understand that physical activity and increasing your physical fitness is a really effective way to prevent and manage sort of these long-term health conditions, instead of using that conventional method that we know is kind of prescribed medication. And it's also, I think, that feeling of the individual taking ownership of their condition, you know, doing something proactive that makes them feel good. And, you know, when you take part in these interventions, sort of in a group exercise environment, you know, they have opportunity to meet like-minded people, and that might motivate them further to carry on engaging in that activity. So yeah, I think it's a really good mechanism, so thank you. So in terms of referral, what's the best way? Mainly through GP?
Through GPs, but we're also strengthening our links with physios and other health professionals, such as nurses, or just general practitioners out in the community. So if people are reluctant to go and see their GP or go into the doctor's surgery, there is other ways to get that referral, and also coming and speaking to us here at the council, we can point individuals in the right direction as well.
That's very good. So thanks, Danny. We look forward to seeing how the up and coming sort of challenges and changes go with exercise referral process, and help to develop things further. So thank you.
No worries, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to check out our social media platforms, which you can view in the description. You can subscribe and activate your notifications so you're informed of when our next podcast is live. Also, feel free to comment below on what you'd like us to talk about next time, or if you have any questions about today.